If there's one secret that I've learned in 31 years as an entrepreneur in the trenches every single day, and 22 years as a professional and amateur sports coach, again in the trenches every day, it's that our life is about our standards. How well we do in our personal world, in our business world, depends entirely on the standards that we set for ourselves, number one, and number two, the people inside our world. Our standards are what make the difference between winning and losing in our personal lives and our business lives. Show me a successful person, a successful entrepreneur, and I will show you a man or a woman with high standards. High standards for themselves, high standards for their employees, high standards for any and all people in their badass world. The thing about standards is we are not, I repeat, we are not our highest aspirations. We're not our biggest dreams. We're not even our biggest goals. We are our lowest standards. I've often said there's no silos in life. It doesn't matter. There's no success in business, as an example, that can ever compensate for failure in the home. You can have a $7-figure million business. You can be in a safe harbor position. But if it comes at the expense of your marriage, if it comes at the cost of your relationship with your children, if it comes at the cost and expense of your physical and mental health, if you don't serve other people, then there's no peace of mind, there's no personal sovereignty, and it bleeds into all the other areas of your life. There's no silos in world building. When you build the badass world, the championship world of your dreams, it's all connected. Marriage, marketing, business, money, relationship with your children, your grandchildren, your physical health, your mental health, your community leadership, it's all connected. And how well you do in all of these different areas depends most importantly on how high are your standards for yourself and for the people in your world. I've always prided myself on having high standards, no matter what I'm involved in, whether it was the hockey business, the barbershop business, the insurance business, whether I was washing windows, my physical health, my mental health, my marriage, my relationship with my daughter, Emery. To me, it all starts and finishes with how high my standards are. If I'm struggling in any area of my life, whether it's my physical health, my mental health, my attitude, walking, copywriting, reading, financially, whenever I'm struggling in an area, the simple cure for me has always been raise my standards. Expect more from myself, demand more from myself, expect more from the people in my world, demand more from the people in my world. If I'm operating at a 9.5 out of 10, if I'm operating at a 9.5 out of 10, the people in my world that surround me are going to be operating at an 8.5 in terms of their standards. If I'm sucking wind at a 3 or a 2.5 out of 10, then the people in my world, in my business, in my personal life, whatever area it is, they're going to be showing up at a 1 or a 2 in terms of their performance out of 10. As a king, as a lion, as a world-building badass, your standards, your personal standards, you're the lead dog. You're the lead dog, and what I mean by that is you set the pace, you set the speed, you set the standards, and then everything after that comes behind you. So if you're at a 9.5, the people in your world are going to be at an 8.5. If you're at a 2, they're going to be at a 1. So as the lead dog, as the king, you're the person who sets the pace and you're the person who sets the standard. You have nobody to blame but yourself if you're struggling in any area of your life, because in whatever area that is, it's because your standards are too low. Your expectations are low, your goals are low, but most importantly, it comes down to what are you willing to tolerate in your life. If you're 40 pounds overweight, you're 40 pounds overweight because you're willing to tolerate being 40 pounds overweight. You're willing to accept being 40 pounds overweight. You're willing to live with the fact that you look a certain way, you feel a certain way, you have low energy, you're at risk for heart disease, you're at risk for stroke. You're willing to tolerate all of those risks, all of those physical ailments, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke. You're willing to tolerate all of that in your world. The day that you decide to finally lose the 40 pounds and start doing the things that are necessary, walking, stretching, drinking a gallon of water, eating a lot of high protein foods, moving every day, that stuff will only happen when you raise your standards and you stop tolerating anything less but excellence in that area of your life. What you tolerate, you get more of. And this is the thing that I learned in coaching sports and employing dozens and dozens of people throughout the years. Whatever I tolerated in my business world, from my staff, I got more of that. If I ever tolerated somebody being 5 minutes late, well, it wasn't long till everybody was 5 minutes late. Then it wasn't long till everybody was 10 minutes late. And then it wasn't long till everybody was 25 minutes late. Whatever I tolerated was my own fault, and I always got more of that. The good news with all of this type of thinking is that if you set exceptional standards for yourself, first and foremost, it all starts with the lead dog. If you set an unrelenting pace, if you set a relentless pace, the people that work with you are going to be caught up in that positive energy. They're going to be caught up in your motivation, your inspiration, your drive. They're going to be caught up in all of it, and it's going to demand that they set higher standards for themselves. In any business I've been in, whether it's the barber shop or the insurance agency or the hockey business or the window washing business or the consulting business, I've always tried to set standards of excellence. If we're going to do something, it's going to be world class. If we're going to do something, it's going to be with the goal of being the very best at that in the world. I don't care if it's writing thank you cards or shooting videos or writing newsletters or executing masterminds. I want to be the world's best in the handful of things that I do. When I bought my hockey team and they were in 22nd place and they were on the emergency operating table, both on and off the ice, playing in front of a empty arena, my goal, my standard from day one was to be a championship organization on the ice, win a Barclay Cup, but also a championship business off the ice. That didn't happen overnight. It took years of relentless work, but it was always the standard that we set. And that standard filtered all through the organization, right down from me to the marketing people, to the volunteers, to the trainers, the assistant coaches, right down to the players, right down to the fans. And eventually we were able to win a Barclay Cup. We were first in league attendance for 6 consecutive years. Corporate sponsorship #1. The standard that I set was the standard that filtered all through the entire organization. When I started my barber shop 6 years ago, I decided on the first day that we were going to be number one in the niche that we were in. We were going to do it better than anybody else in the country. And for 6.5 years, we have been the number one ranked, number one voted barbershop in the country. That came from setting the standard on day one that we're going to do things at a different level than every other barbershop. Whether it be the cleanliness of the bathrooms, whether it be the friendliness of the staff, whether it be the systems and procedures that we put in place, whether it be the marketing, whether it be the services that we give, we're going to set a standard that can't be matched. And we're going to continue to upgrade those standards as much as we can, getting better every single day, every single week, every single year. Same thing in the insurance business is I completely transformed my father's agency, which was already successful, but we weren't going to reach 5 million, 10 million, 14 million without me personally raising my standards, my expectations, my goals, and leading the way as the king, as the lion, as the person who pushed the pace. I was the lead dog. So I set almost unprecedented standards for my 23 people. As everything from punctuality to dress code to the way we would send out an email, write a letter, our marketing, our expectations, our phone scripting, the hours that we worked, everything was designed and everything was built over time from high expectations. And in today's world, I always think the exciting part of being in business or having, raising young children or teenagers, I always find that the exciting thing now, instead of being negative and looking down upon things, is like, wow, it's so exciting because there's almost zero competition out there now. There's almost zero competition. In the society that we're living in right now, our standards have been reduced and set so low that if you're competing as a businessman or an entrepreneur or as an athlete or as a student or a young person, you're raising your kids, it's never been easier, it's never been more simpler to do extremely well because there's almost no competition. I always say, people ask me about raising children in 2022, and they're always looking for a negative response about, the world this and the world that, and it must be difficult and all these different challenges, which are true in some regard. But I tell parents that, my God, in 2022, there's never been an opportunity for young people to start their own company, to start a business on the side. If you teach our children work ethic, if we teach our children integrity and honesty, if we teach our children, if we build our children's self-esteem and self-image, they're not going to have any competition whatsoever. In their world, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if they have a strong work ethic, if they have integrity, if they're readers, if they're creators, if they're builders, if they can take the losses, if they've got thick skin, if they can face and overcome adversity, they're going to be one percenters of one percenters. And the opportunities they're going to have to build a business out of nothing, if we can spark that entrepreneurship in them and set high standards, man, they can have their own businesses on the side in college and high school. As soon as they launch, as soon as they decide to go out on their own, there's never been more opportunity or abundance and wealth to do that. So this is why I'm so bullish as a parent, because I understand if we do an exceptional job and we teach our kids to be workers and we teach them honesty and integrity and grit and toughness and all these important skills and values, they're not going to have any competition. because they're going to be out there with so many other people that are weak, they're thin-skinned, they're entitled, they're unfit, they're unhealthy. And if we can teach our children and our teenagers and our adult children, if we can give them high standards, wow, the world is theirs to claim. Like, you look at our school system now, and the difference between now and 30 years ago is just lower standards. That's all it is. Your children are not going to learn anything in school about winning. They're not going to learn anything about building a championship life or world. They're not going to learn any of that stuff. Our children can't read, they can't write, they can't add, they can't focus. They don't know the state capitals, they don't know the provincial capitals, they don't know the Great Lakes, they don't know any history, they don't know any biology. If they're going to know that stuff, it's going to be self-taught. It's going to be taught through good parenting. It's going to be taught through books. It's going to be taught through serious study. But in school today, they're not learning how to win. In fact, they look around them and they're learning the blueprint for losing. Low standards. But the thing for you as a leader, the thing for me as a husband and as a father and an entrepreneur, is every day I have to ask myself, how can I raise my standards? And that's what I've been doing as we're heading into a new calendar year. I wrote down in my journal the other day, how can I raise my standards? And the questions I asked were these. And I wrote these down, and then I sat in solitude and I just wrote some couple of things, and I came back to it the next day and wrote a couple more things. But here's some of the questions that I sat down and I asked myself to get ideas percolating for the brand new year that's coming up in a month and a bit. I wrote down, the first one I wrote down is, how can I improve my physical fitness standards? How can I improve my physical health standards? And then I wrote a bunch of things, like I need to continue to walk. I need to continue to drink a gallon of water. I need to go to the gym 4 days a week. Different things. The foods I eat, all those kinds of things. Another thing I wrote down is, how can I raise my standards in terms of my mental health, in terms of becoming even stronger mentally? I put down things like reading physical books, joining 2 masterminds, listening to this particular podcast, journaling, doing my gratitude in the evenings, writing my goal first thing in the morning, first thing in the afternoon, hanging out with even better people, growing my group of influential students and friends. I asked myself, how can I improve my standards of relationships, my marriage? How can I improve and how can I raise my standards in regard to my marriage? How can I become a better husband? How can I serve my wife better? What can I do more of? What do I need to do less of? Those kinds of things. How can I raise my standards as a husband? And then I wrote down, how can I raise my standards as a father? What do I need to do more of with Emery? What do I need to do less of with Emery? How can I get even better as a father, as a dad, as a leader? And then I wrote down those. And I wrote down, how can I raise my standards as a coach and a consultant and an entrepreneur? How can I serve more men like you? Through videos, through books, through newsletters, through masterminds. How can I raise my standards as a coach and consultant? How can I do an even better job in 2023? And I wrote down a whole bunch of things that I can do to raise my standards. And then I think one of the most important things I asked myself was, how can I raise my standards in terms of community service? How can I help more people in my community? Can I coach more kids? Can I coach skating? Can I coach hockey? How can I give more back? Is there other charities I could get involved with? Children's literacy, the animal shelter, the food bank, Make-A-Wish Foundation. How can I raise my standards as a community leader and help more people, not just businessmen? And these are the questions I asked, and there was a couple more, but every single area of my life I asked myself, how can I raise my standards? And this is an outstanding exercise for you to start right now with a piece of paper, a legal pad, a journal, whatever it is. Just write out the question for you, every area of your life: money, marketing, marriage, your children, time management, community service, physical health, mental health. In all those areas, ask yourself the question, how can you raise your standards? Because remember, in every one of those areas over the next 12 months, you're going to get exactly what you tolerate. And ask yourself this question: what are you no longer willing to tolerate in any of those areas? That's a good one. What are you no longer willing to tolerate physically, mentally, in your marriage, with your kids, in your community, in your home? What are you no longer willing to tolerate? What are you going to not accept anymore? Because whatever we tolerate, we get more of. So what bad habits are you going to curate? What bad things, what bad people, what toxic people and things are you going to curate and cut the swift sword out of your life? What are you no longer willing to tolerate in your life? How are you going to raise your standards in all the major areas of your life? Maybe you want much better friends. Maybe you want better employees. Maybe you want better health. Maybe you want better mental health. Maybe you want to eat better. Maybe you want to drink more water. Maybe you want to start dating your wife. Whatever it is, ask yourself the question in every one of those areas: how can I raise my standard in this area? And what am I no longer willing to tolerate? What we tolerate, we get more of. If you want to win, raise your standards. Speaking of winning and speaking of raising your standards, my new World Building Badass World Builders Mastermind is filling up quickly. badassworldbuilders.com. It is a 5-question application. You put down a $97 refundable deposit. I get back to you. I read your application. Within 7 days, I'll let you know if you're in or out. But what's going to be any different in the new calendar year? Who's going to hold your feet to the fire? Who's going to hold you accountable? Who's going to push you for 12 months to raise your standards? Who's going to help support you not tolerate what you tolerated in 2022? You're going to do that all by yourself? You're going to do that with a book or a newsletter? That's going to be incredibly tough. I don't leave it to that. I surround myself with coaches and mentors. I'm in 2 masterminds. I'm like everybody else. I'm like Tiger Woods. I'm like Rafael Nadal. I'm like Tom Brady. I'm like Connor McDavid. I'm like Henry Ford. I have a coach. I have coaches. I have mentors. I have people that I learn from. Warren Buffett has a coach. Elon Musk has a coach. Good enough for me. badassworldbuilders.com. You'll be joined at the hip with 49 other elite businessmen. Plus, you'll have me in your life holding you accountable to be constantly and consistently raising your standards every single day. If not, you're just going to tolerate and get more of what you do not want. Make this the year that you raise your standards once and for all, and that you no longer tolerate anything in your life that does not serve you and that does not belong in your new world. badassworldbuilders.com. Remember to hug your wife and children when you get home tonight. It'll make you feel better. It'll certainly make them feel better. The most important people in our world are in our house, not any White House. Make sure they know that you're with them, that you're there, you're present, that you've got this, that you're a leader in these times, and just make sure they know the door is always open for them to come and talk to you whenever. No judgment, no getting upset, just, man, you're here for them no matter what. And every single day, make sure you tell your wife and children how much they mean to you. Nothing is more important than that. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.